Hello, everyone. I guess we can get started now. Welcome to this session of setting up a review in Covidence. This webinar is in our step-by-step series of webinars that provide more in-depth content for each stage of the platform. My name is Ten. I'm a community manager at Covidence, and I'm currently based in the Philippines. I'm also joined today by my colleague, Julie Brown, and she's a consultant systematic reviewer, and she's currently based in New Zealand. Today's session is being run in a standard webinar mode, which means all webinar attendees will be muted. You can ask questions at any time by using the questions box or the Q&A box. And you can also use the chat box as well, which you should be able to see on your screen. Julie will be answering as many questions as she can in the background. We will also have a Q&A section at the end of this webinar. However, if we don't have time to answer your questions before the session ends, we will respond directly to people via email afterwards. You will also receive a recording of this webinar within the next 24 hours. Okay, so what are we covering today? Excuse me. So I'm going to walk you through getting set up and started with Covidence using a live demonstration. This will include going through creating a review, creating your own personal user account. We'll be looking at the review settings and how to import references for title and abstract screening. So a bit of background um, about Covidence, especially for those of you here who are not yet familiar with Covidence. Covidence is a not-for-profit organization and was created by and for the research community and is designed to streamline the review process. Our software allows users to invite co-reviewers and manage and have oversight of the review process. The platform allows our review teams to significantly reduce the amount of time spent on reviews, meaning that you're able to produce high quality evidence faster. We have a full-time team based around the world, and we work continuously on improving the product and providing technical support to our global user community. The platform is entirely cloud-based, so there's nothing to download. And as you can see, we pride ourselves, sorry, in supporting the world's largest review community with more than 500,000 users around the globe. Okay, so before we move on any further, I'm just going to be running a quick opening poll here just so that we can find out how confident you feel about setting up your Covidence review and registering and creating your own personal user account in Covidence. Let me just do that now. Okay, so how confident do you feel about setting up your review in Covidence? We have very confident, somewhat confident, and not confident at all. I'm just gonna allow a few minutes for everyone to answer. Right, so majority of us here are not confident at all. That's 51%. Also, we have 44% of us who are somewhat confident, and very few, 5% are very confident. So this webinar is really a great starting point for our new users, especially those ones who have not used Confidence at all, or it can also be a refresher for those of you here who have used it before but have forgotten some of the ways on how to set up your account or how to review your settings or how to get started with creating a new review in Confidence. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have a more um, solid understanding of how to get started with Covidence and also be, have your confidence dial turned up a little bit in terms of starting a review in Covidence. Right, so now let's begin by signing up for a Covidence account. The way that most people join Covidence is via an invitation like this one. So this invitation is to join an organization, okay, University of Bradford. But you might also receive an invitation to join just a review project, and it will look very similar to this one. You just have to click this accept invitation button here. And once you click on this button, you will be taken to the main landing page for Covidence, where you can either sign in, okay, if you have an existing user account with us, or sign up and create a new individual user account by filling in or by completing this sign up form here. So you just have to click this red free trial button here, and it'll take you to this form here. And you just need to fill in the information here and then click create account. So this is the free trial form. This is also the form that you need to fill in if you want to create a new user account with us. So it'll be asking for your first name, last name, email address. If you are joining Covidence to access an organizational account, such as a university account or a hospital account, then we recommend that you use your university email or your staff email when creating this account, as it will make it easier to affiliate with your organizational account once you've completed the process of setting up an individual user account. So once you're done with these, you can then click create account, and then you're ready to sign in. I just want to emphasize the importance of having one person on one account due to the issues this creates for users and also for us. So you can add additional personal emails in your profile. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But remember that each user account should be associated with just one individual. Okay. Now we're ready to sign in. I'm just going to click sign in here. Okay, now once you've signed in to your account, this is the first page that you'll be taken to. Okay, so this is the main dashboard for all the reviews that you're working on. Here you'll see that your reviews are listed separately, depending on whether I set them up on my personal user account or under an organizational account. So if you can see here that I have two organizational memberships, Covidence University and Covidence on the organizational account. When you click on the profile button up here, you'll also see any organizational memberships that you have. Okay. And here you can also add your email addresses, as many as you want, as long as that's associated with yourself only. Okay. If you just click this profile button here. Now let's start a new review. I'm just going to click on this button here. Okay. So start a new review. And then this is the form that you need to complete when you're starting a new review. It will first ask if you are creating a Cochrane review. Okay. If you are, then you just have to link that to your current Cochrane profile, your RevMan profile. If not, then you just have to use the standard form here. So the name of your review. It doesn't have to be a formal title, but the only requirement is that it has to be unique. The review type, for example, if you're running a systematic review, the question type, and the area of research that you'll be working on. And then you'll have to select which account you want to use. If you are a member of an organization, then you will see a few options here. If you are a member of an organizational account, then selecting that organizational account as the review owner will make that review a full review for you. Okay, and then if you accidentally create a review under your free trial account, if you're using a free trial account when you wanted it under your organizational subscription, just drop us a line at support.covidence.org and we can switch it over for you. Once you've clicked or once you've filled in the information here, you can then click create review. Okay, so now you can see that the review is showing up here. Okay, and then when I click that, I'll be taken to the review summary page for that specific review. So when you set up a new review, everything will be blank. Okay. But there is this standard review project framework, which is automatically generated and follows the logical steps of the review process. You'll see importing of references here, screening for both title and abstract. You'll have your full text review section and a section for your data extraction. Now we'll be going to the settings section. I'm just going to click the settings button here. To begin with, we are now going to look at the settings. So when you set up a review, it is a good idea to come and have a look at the settings. There are 5 sections in settings, which will help you to manage the review. We have review settings, reviewers, team settings, eligibility criteria, and study tags. under review settings here, you have the name of your review, which you can edit. Okay. You can also add the date of the last search that was done, and also the search strategy. Okay. And this is useful if you are filling in the Prisma 2020 statement or the Prisma 2020 template for reporting purposes, so that everything you need is centralized in Covidence. You can also add the review citation if you're adding a previously published review. And you can also select here how the review is going to function and decide on how many reviewers are required to screen. And that's for both title and abstract screening and full text review. This means that two reviewers need to cast a vote on a reference for it to move forward in the review. So you can either keep it as it is, or you can change it to one reviewer required to screen. Okay, which you might want to do if you're doing a scoping review or a narrative review, for example. I'd recommend that if you decide on this, sorry, I recommend that you decide on this before you start screening. If you change from dual to single reviewer mode, it will move forward all the studies with just one vote. And reverting to dual mode or dual reviewer mode will not move those references back to its prior stage. You can move them back individually, but that can be time consuming. So it's best to give this some thought before you start screening. And I'm just going to leave it in dual reviewer mode. You'll also see the options here to choose whether you want to use extraction 2 or extraction 1. By default, you'll have extraction 1 or intervention reviews. And so what's the difference between the two? Extraction 1 is better suited to intervention reviews and is required by Cochrane reviews. Extraction 2 can also be used for intervention reviews and is recommended for everything else because this is a more flexible option, which includes qualitative data and scoping reviews. Another major difference is that you have to have two reviewers to perform data extraction in Extraction 1 framework, but in Extraction 2, you can choose between single or dual reviewer extraction. You can try out both versions to see what's going to work for your project and switch between the two here, even if you have already started work. You won't lose any data by doing this, but please note that any work started in one format will not transfer to the other. And always click save to save the settings whenever you go into your settings. And in terms of the automation options here, we have here options for you to, sorry, this is for extraction 2. So in the area of research, the RCT classifier is only available for reviews that are run under the medical and health sciences. Okay, so using the system by the Cochrane RCT classifier, Covidence will have the capacity to recognize if a study is a potential randomized controlled trial or not, and you can just tick these boxes if you want that option while you are doing your screening. You can also untick that if you don't want to use this automation system. When you get to your data extraction section, you also have the option for the system to provide suggestions during data extraction using our large language models and metadata. So that means that the system will be reading the article and provide you suggestions as to the data that you want to collect from your included studies. The next tab is the reviewers tab. And here is where you can invite and remove reviewers if you need to. To invite a new reviewer, simply enter their name. So for example, if I'm inviting Julie, I just have to enter her um, email address here and click invite. You can send or invite an unlimited number of reviewers to work on your review if you have a paid subscription or if your review is part of an organizational account. You can also see any invites that are pending down here. Okay, and any expired or declined invites on this tab. You can also remove reviewers from here as well by clicking this button here. Okay. Reviewers can come from anywhere inside or outside of your organization. There are no costs associated with being invited to a review team. Note that invitations only last for 30 days before expiring, and they sometimes get lost in your junk mail and may be blocked by firewalls. If you're having these problems, you can always contact us at support@covidence.org, and we will try our best to help you with getting those invitations sent to your co-members. Next is the team settings. Okay. So team settings gives you an overview of the overall progress of every stage of the review. This progress bar also appears on the review summary page, but what you can see here also is the individual contributions of each reviewer. So here you can keep an eye on how much screening each person has done and how much screening is left to do. Contributions also include actions such as resolving conflicts, so they may appear to be higher than studies that you have screened. You also have the ability to set rules, okay, by clicking the Manage Rules radio button here. Okay, so for example, you're the lead reviewer, you're the chief investigator in your team, and you'd like to screen everything. You can put your name here. Okay, add that there. Okay, you can also decide if you want only certain people in your team, maybe a senior colleague or your co-investigator, co-supervisor, to resolve the conflicts, and you can also add their names here. So if I'm the lead reviewer and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna screen all my studies, then make sure that you go to this section of this tab and make sure that all the settings here align with the plans of your team. For the full text section, it looks very similar, okay, with the title and abstract screening section. You've got the same progress bar here, and you have the same for contributions of the reviewers, and the rules are also the same. Okay, sorry, it's just not working, but it's gonna look like this as well. For your extraction section, you've got the team progress bar, and you also have your rules here. Okay. Next tab is your eligibility criteria. And this is set up for the PICO format, so population intervention comparison, outcomes, and also study characteristics. Organizing eligibility criteria in this way helps to make sure you don't miss any relevant studies and saves you time by reducing any voting conflicts. So with this feature, you can structure your criteria by using the PICO's format. You can also view this criteria while you're doing your screening. We'll look at that once we have imported some studies into our review. It also ensures that your team is referencing the correct protocol or review plan. You can also manage your exclusion reasons here for your full text review. So when you're doing a full text review, you're required to give a reason for exclusion. So you can add that here. So we can add reasons like wrong study design, wrong population, you have wrong intervention, wrong outcomes. If another reason comes along while I'm screening, there's an option to edit the list, and I can add that here. For example, this one, just click add and it'll be available for you to select once you've started your full text review. These reasons will also appear in the Prisma diagram or your Prisma flowchart that you can also export once you've done your review project. Our suggestion here is that you try and use a hierarchy of reasons so that the team can reduce the number of conflicts. Because what happens sometimes is that the conflicts that occur in full text review can be because of different reasons for exclusions. So if you have a hierarchy of reasons, it means that if the study I'm looking at is the wrong study design and wrong patient population, I would choose wrong study design as the first option, as that's the top of in my hierarchy of reasons. So we have a question here: who will be solving conflicts? So anyone in the team can actually resolve conflicts. But again, our suggestion is that when you go to your team settings, that you might need to choose the most senior in your team to resolve conflicts because, well, that person may have more experience in terms of running a review. But again, the settings here are flexible, and it also works depending on how your team plans to run your review project. Okay, so our next tab is oh, sorry, I forgot something. So Covidence also now auto highlights the exact keyword or key phrases. You can add inclusion and exclusion keywords or key phrases, which will appear as highlights in both your title and abstract screening and your full text review. The keywords that appear either in green if they're inclusion keywords, or red if they're exclusion keywords. So for example, if I set here a key phrase, common cold, when you start your screening, this will appear as green. Okay, and for example, I set uh, pediatric as an exclusion keyword, then this will appear, oh, this will be highlighted as red when you start your screening. So our suggestion here is that you focus on keywords as if you have a long list, because at the end, if you have, if you create too many highlights and too many keywords and key phrases, Covidence will struggle, especially if you have lots of abstracts. So just make sure that you only put here inclusion and exclusion keywords that are really relevant to your review project, and that applies to full text exclusion reasons as well. Right. So next is study tags. So there are two that are pre-programmed in Covidence. You have awaiting classification and ongoing study. These are system tags and they're used in the Prisma chart. So you cannot delete this, but you can add and delete other tags here. Examples might be, so for example, abstract only, or for example, you've checked a study or a reference, and you thought it's a good study that you can use for your background in your manuscript, then you can also tag that as background, for example. So again, focus on usefulness and remember that all reviewers can see the tags. So information that are available, information on the tags will be available for everyone, and it is not blinded. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of your settings. I'm just going to go back to the main dashboard, and I will now show you the import section. So I'm just going to click the import button here. Right, so this is the first stage that you would be using Covidence for when you start a review in the platform. So this happens after you finalized your protocol, you have designed your search strategy, you've run your searches, and you have obtained your citations that are now ready to be imported into Covidence. So to import them, again, you'll have to click that import button from the review summary page, and then it'll take you to this page here. Okay. So Covidence currently supports three file formats. You have EndNote XML format, PubMed format, sorry, PubMed text format, and also RAS text format. A standard XML file will not be compatible with Covidence. So make sure that when you're importing an XML file that it is using an EndNote XML format. You can import an unlimited number of references. There is a file size limit, however, per batch of about 15,000 references, and that's about 50 megabytes of data. But you can import as many batches as necessary to meet the requirements of the review. So here you can select the category, which is the stage or the step of the review process that you want the references to appear in. If you are starting from the beginning of your review and you have not done any screening outside of Covidence, then you can select screen to import them all in your title and abstract screening section. But if you have done the title and abstract screening outside Covidence, you also have the option to put them into full text review or directly into included, excluded, or the irrelevant list. So irrelevant list is the list of studies that have been excluded at title and abstract screening. You can also keep track of which database or yeah, other sources the references in your review came from by selecting the source here. Okay. If you don't see the source from this list, you can also use the manage sources link here to add any custom sources or new sources if you don't see them from that list. So these sources are automatically added to the Prisma figure as well. So for example, if you want to add a different source, then you can just type that there and then click add, and it'll be available for you to select here. Okay. If you don't want to do that now, or you want to add multiple sources associated with a single import, you can do it also at a later time by going to the import history. Okay, we're gonna look at that later on once we have imported the file. Okay. So now let's try importing a file so you can start your screening. So you can choose your locally saved file from your computer. Just gonna do that. And then you can drag and drop your file onto here and then click import. And then it'll show you how many studies were added and how many duplicates were also detected. So in this import, you can see that there were 3 studies that have been added, and one of them was detected as a duplicate of this first study that I have imported. To check your imports, you can go back to you can click the import button and click your import history. And here it will show you the name and the date that the file was imported. Okay. The number of references that were added and the number of duplicates that were detected and any merged studies as well. You can add sources here, and you can also add multiple sources. So for example, from this file, you had 2 studies from Eric and then 1 study from PubMed, for example, and then click save. We have also discovered that EndNote and Zotero both make changes to references when they export that sometimes affect the number of duplicates. So EndNote undoes capitalization of author names and Zotero does not. Zotero removes HTML coding within article titles, while EndNote does not. And also both EndNote and Zotero remove any unnecessary spaces before the author's name. So if you're importing a mixture of reference managers and database files, there may be a very small number of duplicates that Covidence does not pick up. It is possible to undo an import if you have not already started screening. So this is something to be aware of. If you have started screening, you just have to write in to us and we can reset the review for you. Note that we cannot undo a single import. So when we do a reset, you will have the whole review reset for you. You will see these buttons here. So this means that you can still undo this import because no actions have been taken yet on this import set. But for those ones that have already had actions taken, then you won't be able to see this option. Upon import, Covidence automatically deduplicates or detects duplicate references against all studies within this import and against any previous imports in that review. You can check your duplicates by clicking on the duplicates link. And you can also select if those references that have been detected as a duplicate by the system is not a duplicate by clicking this button here. So if you mark the reference not a duplicate, this reference will be returned to the list of your references for title and abstract screening and will create a new identification number or Covidence identification number. So the duplication process in Covidence is very strict. It rarely takes things out by mistake, but it will miss some true duplicates. So it's more specific than it is sensitive. Some reviewers do all their deduplication in Covidence, and others prefer to do a pre-check in a reference manager such as EndNote before importing them to Covidence. Some reference managers and databases detect duplicates when you export, so watch out for this as well if your numbers don't match. EBSCO is known to do this. Okay, and once you've imported your references, we are now ready to start your screening. Okay, so this is the next step. That's step 2 of our step-by-step series. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of that. So you can see here that you have one article for screening. I'm just going to click continue, and this is where you start your screening process. Okay, and that's our step 1. Getting ready with Covidence in terms of creating a user account and creating a review and setting up your review project in Covidence. Let's now have a quick closing poll. Okay, so after watching the webinar, how confident do you now feel about setting up your review in Covidence? So we have the same options: very confident, somewhat confident, and not confident at all. Just gonna end the poll now. Okay, so we have some positive shift here based on the results. So we have now 3% who are not confident at all. In the beginning, this was the majority. We also have 66% who are now somewhat confident, and 31% are very confident. So yeah, I hope that that you've learned something new today and that you'll be able to um, start using Covidence for your review project. I'm now gonna check if there are any unanswered questions from our Q&A box.
Hi, Chen.
Hi,
Um,
Julie.
I'm just going to ask if you can show the viewers all about kind of adding multiple sources,
Oh, yes, sure, sure, I can do that.
just because
So,
we've had a couple of questions about that.
okay. So, for
Can you go to full
example,
screen again as well? Sorry, 10.
yeah, no problem.
Perfect.
Yep. So, for example, this import set, we're looking at 3 references that have been added. Okay. So, if you want to add multiple sources, you can just click this link here. So, the source button. And then from here, you can add any sources that you want. So, for example, one is from Eric. One is from PubMed, and then I want to add another source, which is Embase, for example. So now you've got 3 sources for your 3 references. If you add another one, then it will create a conflict because you have only imported 3 and it must be equal to the number of references that you have imported. Okay. We have a related question as well, Julie. So that this is from Florentine. I'm unsure as to why you would select a source when you are, for example, importing from EndNote or should have multiple EndNote libraries for each database you're searching. So um, we just have to make the so EndNote is a reference manager. It is not a source of your searches. So EndNote just manages the references that you get from all your searches. So for example, you have searched a few articles from PubMed. So PubMed is a search database. It's a database of articles that you can um, use for your review. So for example, if your source is from PubMed, and then you have another set of searches from Embase, for example, you can then export them from those 2 databases and then use EndNote to manage those references and create a file that you can use for importing them into Covidence. And then once you've imported those references from EndNote to Covidence, you can then add the sources in Covidence, just like what I've mentioned here. So for example, 50 is from PubMed and another 50 is from Embase. Another question, is it possible for me to have two reviewers on screening and full text screening, but one reviewer for data extraction? Yes, that is possible. So you just have to go to your settings and change the number of reviewers required for data extraction from dual to one. And that applies to both extraction one and extraction two. Also, if you need help with anything, for example, you are at the title and abstract screening section and you need help with conducting your title and abstract screening, you just have to click this help button here, this question mark icon here, and go to our explore go to our knowledge base. Okay, so our knowledge base is a very comprehensive guide to using Covidence. It covers every aspect of the system, and there are lots of videos and articles here as well that you can use. So this is really a very good place for you to take a look at in the first instance. And these are also grouped by the stages in the review. So if you're looking at how to set up your review, you have your articles here, inviting users down here, account setup as well. We also have our webinars here. Okay, so you can see the any upcoming webinars that we have. Okay, and you can also watch the recordings of the recent webinars or the webinars that we have conducted in the past, which might be of interest to you. For example, writing a protocol, and these are also the recordings of each of our webinars from our step-by-step series, from step one to step two, and this is what we're doing at the moment. Step one, and again, those that are of general interest to you. In our website, you can also download some ebooks that we have just launched. So if you go to our website, you click on resources and you click downloadable resources and then click ebook. You'll find these two ebooks that we have just launched. One is for data extraction if you are doing an intervention systematic review, and one is for protocol development. I think that this one is of great value to if you developed any protocol for your review. So this one's really good, especially if you're running a systematic review. It has comprehensive resources and it has also tips from seasoned researchers, seasoned systematic reviewers um, from our community. So yeah, have a look at these, and these are also great resources for you to download. Another
And
question?
we've got another really good question about
Yep.
what is the benefit of adding a source. Um, if you could just explain that and the fact that it goes into the Prisma figure, that'd be useful.
Okay. Yes. Thanks, Julie. So yep. So once you have imported any reference into Covidence, you can add your sources there. So these are really helpful, especially for documentation purposes. So if you are running a systematic review, um, one of the requirements, if you decide to publish your manuscript and have it published in a journal, then you would need to report those sources that you've used for your searches, and they will need to be um, specified in this flowchart. Okay, so so this is where you would this is where in the diagram you'll see the sources that you have added, and this will be needed when you submit your manuscript because this is part of the Prisma 2020 statement. Did you want to add anything, Julie, to that?
No, I think it's just a matter of kind of the transparency of your
Yes.
review, that if you make the effort to identify all of the sources, then everything is transparent. If anyone wants to check your methods, then all the information's there. So it's a really useful thing to do to identify all the sources for your input.
Yep. Yeah, so it's for transparency and it's for reporting purposes as well when you because that is a requirement of the Prisma 2020 statement. So it ensures the rigor of the methodology of your review as well. Uh, I have a few questions today. So I have another one here. I do not understand why you add the reference to irrelevant. So again, that is for reporting purposes. You want to make sure that in your Prisma diagram that you have reported everything that you have done within that review project. So that's also for transparency and for methodological rigor and for reporting purposes. I don't know how to use EndNote. I've never had to use it. So right now I can't import any references into my Covidence review. Um, so so because EndNote is outside of Covidence, I have very limited information about using EndNote. But Annie, you can use other reference managers. We have Zotero, Mendeley. And you can also export directly from from the databases. You just have to make sure that the file format is compatible with Covidence. So again, the compatible file formats that you can use when you're importing references into Covidence are here. So they have to be EndNote XML format. So this one is using EndNote, but you can also use PubMed text format. You can download this directly from PubMed or RIS text format.
Also, if you're associated with a university, then I'd recommend that you contact your library services about using reference managers like EndNote, and they'll have lots of training available for you and explain how to use it. So that they're always a good source, your librarians.
Another question, if I search PubMed and Embase to get two outputs, can all the articles be combined into one place to then screen all together, or do I have to screen separately? So once you have all your searches, you can then import them all into Covidence and they will all be in the same list. So you will be working off one list of references that for title and abstract screening up to your data extraction. So all of those searches you can import into Covidence into one review project and yeah, so you can do all your screening in one place. And that's basically the reason why we have Covidence. So Covidence is used for streamlining your review process from importing of your references, title, abstract screening, full text review, data extraction, and exporting those references for publication, for example, or for use for your review. Okay, so another question from Stephanie. Does Covidence keep track of study source databases throughout the screening and subsequent stages of the review? So all your sources that you've used for your searches will be in your Prisma diagram. So this keeps on updating um, throughout the conduct of your review. So from when you started your review until data extraction, this will keep updating to reflect the sources that you've used for your searches. Another question, can we upload full text PDF to article that is missing in the full text screening step? So uploading of your full text PDFs will need to be done once the references have reached your full text review section. Okay, so here you can then add the full texts so that you can review the full text of the reviews that have of the references that have been included in our recent webinars. That's part of step 3. So if you want to know more about that, Safia, you can just click this link and it'll take you to the recording of that session where they have explained in detail how to upload full text PDFs. Another question, could you tell us again where to find the PDF files? Okay, so that's also part of step 3, but I'll show you quickly how to do that. So once you have your references imported into Covidence, you have 3 options to find your PDF. So first is by clicking this DOI link. So if you have an organizational subscription to the owner of this journal, then you should be able to download the PDF or the full text PDF of this document. You then save that into your computer and then import that into Covidence. Excuse me. Another question, once you import your abstracts and extract, in the end, will Covidence know how many of your abstracts from each source are included and how many were excluded from each source? Yes. So once you've started your screening, the references will move to the different stages of the review depending on how you voted. So for example, this reference, so when I start my screening, you'll have options here for yes, maybe, and no. Two no votes will move this reference to your irrelevant list. Okay. Two yes votes will move this reference to the next stage, which is your full text review. And if you have one yes and one no, okay, considering that we're doing dual reviewer mode, then this reference will move to your resolve conflicts tab where a conflict resolution will need to be made to ensure that this reference moves to the correct stage of the review. And that also applies to your full text review section. But in your full text review section, you'll only have two options. You have yes and no, no, include and exclude options. So to include votes will move that to your excluded references. To include votes will move that to your data extraction section. One include and one exclude will move that reference to your resolve conflicts tab, where a conflict resolution will also need to be made. And if you have set the most senior member of your team as the one who needs, who is assigned to make that final decision, then he or she will be the person who is only allowed to make that conflict resolution. What if the database update uh, tell us there is something new coming? Can we add this along the way? Can you show how to add additional only? Yes, you can. So uh, every time you make a search or every time you want to import additional references, you just have to go to this section, click import, and just select the file from your computer, import them, and it will be added to the list of references that are for title and abstract screening and for full text review or for data extraction if they get past that point. Can we insert? Oh, sorry. Uh,
And there's a couple of questions come in about the kind of number of emails you can have in your account. I
okay,
wonder if you can just
so
show the profile.
yep,
Um,
sure. Thanks, Julie. So in your review summary, oh well, anywhere in any section of the review, you'll see your profile up here at the top, top right hand side corner of your screen, where you see your initials. Click that and then click profile. And then here you can add as many email addresses as you want. But just remember that those email addresses will only have to be associated with yourself. So for example, there are three of you in the team. So there has to be three user accounts to be able to collaborate with each other. If I add my co-reviewer here, for example, Julie, then this will, well, basically this will mess up everything because Julie won't be able to log in. She won't have her own user account to be able to vote on the references. And we will need to delete that so that Julie can create her own user account. So again, I can put here as many email addresses as I have. And when you log into Covidence, you have to remember your primary email address because when you log into Covidence, this also serves as your login ID. Did you want to add anything to that, Julie?
no, that's perfect explanation, Tan. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, we're just gonna have a couple more questions as we're reaching the hour.
We just had one really good question, Tan, about grey literature. So a lot of
Mm-hmm,
people um, discover grey literature along the way, which might
mm-hmm,
be unpublished material. So how
mm-hmm.
can they add that in the sources?
Okay. So, for example, you have a source from, for example, a news article or a blog or a web page where it's not really part of a journal or part of a search database. You can also import that. So, but make sure that it's using a correct Covidence compatible file format. Once you've done that, you can then click import. Okay. So you can either add your source here as a gray literature by clicking the manage sources link here. Okay. And then that'll be available as an option when you import references from gray literature. Click import, or you can also do that here via the import history. So for example, this one has three references and one of them is from a news article, for example. Then you can either click gray literature or you can add any additional sources here as well. Okay, I hope that answers your question. But just make sure that when you're adding a new source, that you click the manage sources link here. And this is where you add any search sources that you have. So news article, um, that'll be there. Use blogs as well, or you can say YouTube. That's also acceptable. It really depends on what type of review you're running. Okay, so we have a follow-up question here about gray literature. Yes, Shiba, you can. Okay, I'm just gonna allow you to talk. Okay. Yep, you can
Thank you
go
so
ahead now.
much. The follow-up question was really, I'm at the stage of screening in Covidence, and when I imported the gray literature, I imported it into the EndNote and then transferred all the data to Covidence. So at this stage, and what you've explained, what I've understood is that you probably have to have a separate list of Covidence to be imported into EndNote. But if I'm at this stage where I've already imported Covidence articles into Covidence, including gray literature, is there a way I can still distinguish that so it is reflected in Prisma?
Yeah,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, I'm sure you can still do that, but that will be because we don't have access to your files. The only file, so Covidence only reads what's in the import file. So everything that you have imported, yes, we can read that, but not the sources, not the database reference, the database sources where you've gotten your searches or any reference managers that you've used. So in terms of tracing back those references that you've searched from, for example, gray literature, then yes, you can do that, but that will need to be done before you import them so that you can have them accounted for when you add those sources into Covidence. I hope that makes sense.
Right. So that means at this stage I cannot make that distinction.
Yes, that's right. In Covidence, but you can also do that if you have those lists in your file where
Yes.
you can then trace the references or the sources of those searches that you have.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. I
nah,
appreciate
no
it.
worries. Cool. So we have reached the hour. So thank you all so much for attending and taking the time to attend this session. Again, we have the recordings of our recent webinars here. One of them, sorry, the one that we're doing now is right here. You can also watch this. Within 24 hours, you'll also receive a recording of this exact webinar that we've just done. And if you have any further questions, you can always contact us at support.confidence.org, or you can visit our knowledge base as well by clicking the question mark icon here and clicking explore knowledge space. So thank you all so much, and I hope that you learned something new today. And goodbye for now. Thanks.